The hot sand scorched his feet as Mark Jenkins stumbled backward, his sunglasses hanging crookedly from one ear. Time seemed to freeze as his eyes met hers, Victoria Chen, the formidable CEO of his company, standing there in nothing but swim bottoms, arms instinctively crossing over her chest. Her shocked expression quickly transformed into something harder, more unreadable. In that moment, all Mark could think was how differently he'd imagined meeting his boss outside the office, and how quickly his career might now be ending. If you're enjoying this story so far, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more engaging content like this. Your support helps us create more stories that touch your heart. Mark had never expected his rare day off to implode so spectacularly. Being a single father to 8-year-old Lily meant that personal time was a luxury he rarely afforded himself. Between his demanding job as a marketing director at Chen Innovations and raising his daughter, his life operated on a delicate balance that had just been catastrophically disrupted by a chance encounter at a secluded beach cove. "Mr. Jenkins," Victoria's voice cut through the awkward silence, her tone as crisp as it was during board meetings, despite her state of undress. "I wasn't aware this private beach had become company property." Mark fumbled for words, his face burning hotter than the summer sun beating down on them. "Ms. Chen, I'm so sorry, I had no idea, this isn't," he turned abruptly, giving her his back while she adjusted her situation. He could hear Lily calling for him from further down the beach, blissfully unaware of the career suicide her father was committing. "Daddy! Look at this shell I found." Lily's voice grew closer. Victoria quickly grabbed a towel from her beach chair, wrapping it around herself just as the little girl appeared around the rock formation that partially secluded this portion of the beach. "Is this your friend, Daddy?" Lily asked, her innocent eyes moving between the two adults who stood rigid with tension. The silence that followed felt eternal. Mark had lost his wife, Rebecca, to cancer 3 years ago. Since then, every decision, every moment of his life had been carefully calculated to provide stability for Lily. His job at Chen Innovations was the cornerstone of that stability. The salary allowed him to pay for their modest home, Lily's education, and the occasional babysitter when work demanded late hours. The thought of losing it all because of an accidental glimpse made his stomach twist into knots. Victoria's expression softened slightly as she looked at Lily. "Yes, I work with your father," she said, her voice gentler than Mark had ever heard it. Then to Mark, "Perhaps we should discuss this on Monday, in my office. 9 a.m. sharp." Those words hung in the air like a guillotine blade. The weekend passed in a blur of anxiety for Mark. He barely slept, replaying the mortifying scene in his head and imagining every possible outcome, none of them favorable. By Monday morning, he had resigned himself to updating his resume and explaining to Lily why they might need to move to a smaller apartment. Victoria's office occupied the entire top floor of the Chen Innovations building, a glass and steel monument to her success in the tech industry. At 42, Victoria had built her company from the ground up, earning both admiration and fear from her employees. Single-minded and relentlessly driven, she had a reputation for brilliance matched only by her exacting standards. No one knew much about her personal life. She was an enigma wrapped in designer suits and uncompromising ambition. "Come in," she called when he knocked on her door precisely at 9. Mark entered, his tie feeling suddenly too tight. Victoria sat behind her imposing desk, not a hair out of place, nothing in her demeanor suggesting they had seen each other in any context other than professional. "Sit down, Mr. Jenkins." He obeyed, bracing for the inevitable. "I've been reviewing your file," she began, tapping a folder on her desk. 5 years with the company. Consistently strong performance reviews. The Bradbury campaign was particularly impressive. Mark nodded, uncertain where this was going. However, Victoria continued, her eyes finally meeting his, "I find myself concerned about your work-life balance." Of all the things he expected her to say, this wasn't even on the list. I'm sorry. Your personnel file indicates you've taken exactly 3 personal days in the past 2 years, including Friday. You regularly work weekends. Your emails are time-stamped at all hours. She leaned forward. And now I discover you have a young daughter. How do you manage? The question caught him off guard. Was this a test? Some psychological tactic before she fired him? I do what needs to be done, he answered carefully. Lily comes first, but the job is what allows me to provide for her. Victoria was silent for a long moment. The beach where we encountered each other is quite remote. I go there specifically because few people know about it. Why that beach? Mark swallowed. Rebecca, my late wife, used to take us there. It's special to Lily. Something in Victoria's expression shifted, almost imperceptibly. I see. She closed his file. Mr. Jenkins, I need to be clear about something. What happened on Saturday was unfortunate and uncomfortable for both of us. I value my privacy greatly. I understand completely, Ms. Chen. It will never happen again, and I want to assure you. She held up a hand, stopping him mid-sentence. I'm not finished. I've been reconsidering our company's policies on work-life balance. We lose too many valuable employees to burnout. I'd like you to head up a new initiative examining how we can improve in this area. Mark blinked, sure he had misheard. You want me to lead a new initiative? Yes. Consider it a promotion. With a corresponding salary increase, of course. She stood up, signaling the meeting was over. And Mark? Take your daughter to that beach more often. Some things are more important than work. As he stood to leave, stunned by this unexpected turn of events, Victoria added, about Saturday, let's agree it never happened. Of course, Ms. Chen. Thank you. The promotion changed everything for Mark. The higher salary meant he could finally afford after-school care for Lily, reducing his reliance on late-night work sessions. The work-life balance initiative became his passion project, and surprisingly, Victoria gave him free rein to implement substantial changes throughout the company. Weeks passed, and the beach incident faded into an awkward memory. Until one Friday afternoon when Victoria appeared in his office doorway. The initiative proposal is excellent, she said without preamble. But there's a flaw in your methodology. Mark looked up from his computer. What's that? You're still working late. Practicing what you preach would lend credibility to the program. She checked her watch. It's 5:30 on a Friday. Go home. He hesitated. I just need to finish. That's an order, Mr. Jenkins. Their eyes met, and for a brief moment, he saw something beyond the boss-employee dynamic, a hint of genuine concern. As summer transitioned to fall, Mark noticed subtle changes in Victoria. In meetings, she occasionally asked about Lily. She implemented several of his work-life recommendations company-wide with surprising speed. During a particularly stressful product launch, she personally ensured he was home by dinner time each night. It was during the company's annual charity gala in October that things shifted again. Mark had brought Lily as his plus one, a decision he questioned when he saw the elaborate event Victoria had organized. But his daughter, dressed in her favorite blue dress, charmed everyone she met, including the typically stoic board members. Your daughter is remarkable, Victoria said, appearing beside him at the bar where he was getting Lily a soda. She wore a stunning red gown, a striking departure from her usual corporate attire. She's the best thing in my life, Mark replied honestly. Victoria's eyes followed Lily as she twirled on the dance floor with the daughter of another employee. You've done an excellent job raising her, especially under difficult circumstances. Thank you. It hasn't been easy, but... My mother raised me alone too, Victoria said quietly, surprising him with the personal revelation. She worked 3 jobs. I barely saw her. Mark didn't know how to respond to this unexpected glimpse into her life. That's why your initiative matters to me, she continued. Success shouldn't require sacrificing family. Before he could respond, Lily bounded over, slightly out of breath from dancing. "Ms. Victoria, you look like a princess," she declared with 8-year-old conviction. Victoria looked momentarily startled, then her features softened into a genuine smile, the first Mark had ever seen from her. "Thank you, Lily. That's a lovely compliment. Daddy says you're the boss of everything at his work." Victoria laughed, the sound surprisingly light. "Not everything, just most things. Daddy works really hard for you. Sometimes too hard. But he says it's worth it because you're fair, even when you're scary." "Lily." Mark felt his face grow hot. "Scary, am I?" Victoria raised an eyebrow, but her eyes danced with amusement. "Sometimes," Lily nodded seriously. "But Daddy says that's because you had to be tough to get where you are, and that we should respect that." Victoria's expression turned thoughtful as she regarded Mark with new interest. "Your father is a wise man." As November arrived, bringing with it colder weather and holiday preparations, Mark found himself in Victoria's office more frequently. What had once been tense, formal meetings gradually evolved into collaborative sessions that occasionally strayed into personal territory. He learned that Victoria had no family beyond a distant cousin in Seattle. Her life was her company, her achievements measured in stock prices and market share. "Thanksgiving plans?" he asked casually during one late afternoon meeting. She shrugged, not looking up from the report they were reviewing. "The usual. Work, probably." The words were spoken matter-of-factly, but something about her tone made him pause. "Lily and I would love to have you join us," he said before he could reconsider. "Nothing fancy, just a small turkey and too many side dishes." Victoria finally looked up, surprise evident in her expression. "That's not necessary. It's not about necessity. It's an invitation." He held her gaze. "No one should work on Thanksgiving." She hesitated, then nodded once. "I'll bring wine." Thanksgiving at Mark's modest home was nothing like the corporate events Victoria typically attended. His small house in the suburbs was warm and cluttered with evidence of Lily's creative projects and their shared life. He had worried Victoria might find it all beneath her standards, but instead, she arrived with not only wine but also a homemade pie. "You bake?" he asked, unable to hide his surprise as he took the perfectly crimped apple pie from her hands. "Is that so hard to believe?" There was a defensive edge to her voice. "Honestly? Yes." She smiled then, a flash of vulnerability crossing her face. "My mother taught me. It's the one recipe I've mastered. The only time I make it is, well, today is the first time in years." The meal was surprisingly comfortable. Victoria listened attentively as Lily dominated the conversation with stories about school and friends. When Mark excused himself to clear the dishes, he returned to find his boss sitting cross-legged on the living room floor, helping Lily construct an elaborate castle out of building blocks. "She insisted I needed to play more and work less," Victoria explained, looking slightly embarrassed to be caught in such an undignified position. "She's right, you know," Mark said softly. Something unspoken passed between them, a current of understanding that transcended their professional relationship. For the first time, Mark saw Victoria not as his intimidating boss, but simply as a woman who had sacrificed personal connections on the altar of professional success. December brought snow and the company's Christmas party. This year, instead of the formal black tie event of years past, Victoria had approved Mark's suggestion for a family-friendly celebration during daytime hours. The office was transformed with decorations, a Santa for the children, and activities that had employees' families mingling and laughing. "This is significantly better than watching Henderson from accounting get drunk on eggnog and sing karaoke," Victoria commented, appearing at Mark's side as he helped Lily decorate a gingerbread house. "High praise indeed," he laughed. "Ms. Victoria. Come help us," Lily called, waving a tube of frosting. To Mark's amazement, Victoria joined them, carefully placing candy canes along the gingerbread roof. Her normally immaculate manicure soon bore traces of sticky frosting and sprinkles. "You're a natural," he said quietly, watching her patient interaction with his daughter. "Hardly," she replied, but her expression was pleased. "I never did this as a child. My mother worked through most holidays." The revelation added another piece to the puzzle that was Victoria Chen, driven, accomplished, and perhaps more than a little lonely. As Christmas approached, Mark was surprised to receive an invitation to Victoria's home, a sleek, modern penthouse overlooking the city. The pretext was work-related, finalizing the company-wide implementation of his work-life balance initiative for the new year. But when he arrived, he found not the stark, minimalist space he had imagined, but a warmly lit apartment with a modest tree and the scent of something delicious cooking. "I thought we might discuss the final proposal over dinner," Victoria said, suddenly seeming uncertain as she led him to a dining table set for two. "Unless you need to get back to Lily?" "She's at her best friend's house for a sleepover," Mark explained, touched by her consideration. "This is not what I expected." Victoria busied herself opening wine. "People rarely see beyond what I show them at work." The dinner was exquisite, clearly catered, but the gesture itself spoke volumes. As they talked, the conversation drifted far from work. Victoria spoke of her childhood in a small apartment with a mother who worked endlessly to give her opportunities. Mark shared stories of his early days with Rebecca, the devastating months of her illness, and his struggle to be both mother and father to Lily afterward. "How do you do it?" Victoria asked, her professional mask completely lowered. "Balance it all?" Mark considered the question. "Imperfectly," he admitted. "Some days I feel like I'm failing at everything. But Lily, she deserves my best effort." "She's lucky to have you," Victoria said quietly. "I'm the lucky one." He hesitated, then added, "Everyone needs someone to come home to, Victoria. Even brilliant CEOs." Her eyes met his, vulnerable in a way he'd never witnessed. "I chose this path. Career over personal life. It seemed like the only way to succeed. Maybe once. But things change. People change." The air between them felt charged with possibility, with words unsaid and feelings neither was ready to name. The new year brought changes to Chen Innovations. Victoria's implementation of Mark's work-life initiative made headlines in business publications, with many noting the surprising transformation of a company once known for its demanding culture. Mark's role expanded, his talent for balancing human needs with business requirements earning him respect throughout the organization. But the most significant changes were personal. Victoria began appearing more regularly in Mark and Lily's life, initially under work pretexts, then gradually without any pretense at all. Movie nights. Weekend outings. A memorable disaster of an attempt to teach Lily to ice skate that ended with all three of them laughing hysterically on the ice. It was during spring break, exactly 10 months after that fateful day at the beach, when they returned to that same secluded cove. Lily ran ahead, searching for shells, while Mark and Victoria walked slowly along the shore. "I never thanked you," Victoria said suddenly. "For what?" "For seeing me. Not the CEO, not the boss, just me." She stopped walking, turning to face him. "That day, here on this beach, I was mortified. Then furious. I was certain you'd gossip about it, that I'd lose the respect I'd worked so hard to build." Mark shook his head. "I would never. I know that now." Her hand found his, their fingers intertwining naturally. "But what I didn't expect was how that moment would change everything. How it would force me to see what was missing in my life." In the distance, Lily waved excitedly, holding up a perfect sand dollar for their inspection. "She adores you," Mark said softly. "Almost as much as I do." Victoria's breath caught. It was the first time either had voiced the feelings that had been developing between them for months. "I never planned for this," she whispered. "For either of you. My 5-year strategy definitely didn't include falling in love with an employee and his 8-year-old daughter. Mark smiled. Sometimes the best things in life aren't planned. As Lily ran back toward them, her face alight with joy, Mark saw his future reflected in Victoria's eyes, not the lonely path he had resigned himself to after Rebecca's death, but something new and unexpected. A second chance at happiness, born from the most awkward moment of his life. "Ready to show Ms. Victoria our special tide pool?" he called to Lily. "Yes. Come on." Lily grabbed Victoria's free hand, tugging her forward, creating a chain of connection between the three of them. Later, as the sun began its descent toward the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, Mark watched Victoria helping Lily build an elaborate sandcastle. His boss. His friend. Perhaps something more. The woman who had entered his life through an embarrassing accident and somehow become essential to it. Life rarely followed a predictable path. Sometimes it took unexpected turns, a chance encounter, an awkward moment, a glimpse of vulnerability, to lead you exactly where you needed to be. For Mark Jenkins, a mortifying beach incident had somehow become the beginning of his second chance at happiness. As Victoria looked up, catching his eye with a smile that held both promise and certainty, Mark knew with absolute conviction that sometimes, the most beautiful journeys begin with the most awkward first steps. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more content that explores the unexpected ways life can change in an instant. Your support means everything to us and helps us continue sharing stories of hope, second chances, and finding love in the most unexpected circumstances. Leave a comment below with your thoughts, we'd love to hear from you.